Corbolic V2. This is a super safe and effective natural anabolic. Not only is this product going to help you increase protein synthesis, which basically means muscle recovery and growth, it also may inhibit myostatin, which is a protein in your body that is known to inhibit muscle growth. This is a complete natural anabolic that works through multiple different pathways, has multiple trademarked ingredients. If you are a natural athlete looking for that edge, Corbolic V2 is what you need. Get yourself some.
Okay, actually, this works out really well. Danika, keep your thought VO2 max and why you want it. Because what I was thinking that we should talk about today was kind of like the influencing, de-influencing, and like things we think people should focus on and things that they shouldn't. Okay, so Danika was talking a couple seconds ago, and then we were like, we have to record, about how she wants to get her VO2 max tested. And that the reason is because she has a little bit of like health anxiety, and this works into that. So she was talking about her resting heart rate and her VO2 max. Ready to go.
Yes. So I have probably had health anxiety, if you want to call it that, since, oh God, probably since I was diagnosed with type 1, right? Like, because it's like bombarded in my face. Like, I'm just
That was
always
like childhood, right?
Yeah, 11.
Yeah.
So like I'm always told about like watch your eyesight, make sure your circulation is good, make sure your piggy toes are good, like make sure like you're taking care of yourself and your sugars can't go too high, you'll lose your eyes and like all these things. But that was at a young age. And then I think now knowing what I know about health and fitness, there was like a period of time that I was like okay with things. So I was like, I treat myself well. I'm totally fine. But there are so many trackers out there, and there are so many things that are measured, and there are so many like variables now that people are like, have you looked at this? Have you looked at this? What about this? And my heart is a big thing that I'm always concerned about. Duh, because it keeps me alive. But also, I am already put at risk for cardiovascular disease. And because of type 1, like I already have an increased risk of it. And so I'm always concerned about like, is my resting heart rate low enough? And then like measuring heart rate variability. And is that in a good place? Because fucking Dr. Google tells you the worst case scenario with everything. And then I, in my non-logical mind, will take that rabbit hole and dive in and be like, spiral me around, please. Let me just be on this ride with you. So yeah, I'm interested to do these measurements. I love data. And I think because I always have to go to the doctor, I always have to get lab work done. I know so much about my inner workings because of type 1. So now I'm like, give me all the data, like give me more and more. What other testing can you do on me? So VO2 max has been something I've been wanting to do. Also, if I'm being completely honest, it's so I hear, a really great measurement of longevity. And so in my mind, my biggest fear is dying. And even though I know we're all going to die, everyone can psychoanalyze this. I've already done it to myself plenty. But that's my biggest fear. So I'm like, how long am I going to live?
I feel like death is the biggest adventure because nobody knows what it's like.
I know.
Like, cool, let's go. Let's fucking die. Like, I'm about it.
I don't know if I am about it. Actually, I'm not about it. I'm so not about it because so when I was diagnosed, they were like, just so you know, sweetheart, this disease cuts 15 years off your life. And I was like,
They did not tell that to an 11-year-old. They told that to an 11-year-old.
Yeah, 100
Okay.
verbatim, this is what's going to happen. And I was like, why?
So let me pause you and tell you, okay, so in less than 100 years, right? Average life expectancy in the US in 1950 was around 68 years old. It is currently a little over 79 years old based on 2025 projections, right? We'll say 79 years old after. So I would say, in general, It looks like we're getting more time. Now, there's also some arguments that like American life expectancy is now on a little bit of a decline due to some things, but like, I mean, I think back in the day, people ate a lot less processed foods. They were very active because they were active jobs. Sure, that active job might have been in the coal mine where it had some other things, that were going on that were
Like
problems.
screening wasn't as good, you
Yeah,
know?
yeah. And,
Right.
you might have lived in lead-based paint houses and you might have been, hanging out with the asbestos bros and whatever. Um, but like overall, we're on the come up if, longer life is what you're looking for.
So
So there's good news too.
Yes.
here's what I would think though, right? Like instead of going out and doing a VO2 max test, which I mean, if you wanted to go do, have fun, go do it, right? Um, I can't, I don't, are they expensive? I feel like they're
I would
not
think that would be expensive because the machines that are tracking the change in uh, O2 VO or O2 CO2, which is how they are getting your VO2 max and how they're
right.
calculating it, right? Because they have to look at RER or
You'd be
respiratory
at like a
extrains ratio.
university or something generally, unless you
Uh,
have like a run lab.
so we used to do them when I was interning. So it was a hospital facility that wasn't connected to a hospital. It was an outpatient facility. And so they had PTs and they had us doing like cardiac rehab and pulmonary rehab and those kind of things. But they also had personal trainers in a gym there. And they also had the stuff to do the VO2 max testing there.
Yeah.
So it wasn't necessarily cheap, but I don't think it was crazy expensive because I think and it's been a while since I've had talks of how much these machines cost, but I want to say they were like 20 or 30 grand um
Right.
for the
So it's
machines.
paying
But
off
but
well.
yeah, but then you also have to be able to, know how to
Man.
use that, know how to use the software and all the rest of the stuff. So it's not necessarily a cheap investment to be able to offer that.
So here's where I would go, right? I would think that this would kind of be like the same as somebody who was like they knew a little bit about like tracking their food and they're paying attention to it, but they haven't gotten entirely into it. They've got weight to lose. And they're like, you know what though? I'm gonna go get I just can't, I need a DEXA scan. I have to know. Which it's like, okay, well, you could go do that. And there's other things we can work on at home, right? And so for you, we could do a threshold test where one of the things that we could work to to improve your VO2 max, one of the things that you would do would be like sustained tempo runs and stuff like that, where you're purposely working at a high capacity. So you're at a point that you can sustain it for like an hour, ideally, but you are fucking done at the end of that hour. Like you don't want to be doing it anymore. And so what I would want to have you do is start just working there. And like if we did that routinely and we were like, what I like to do with clients is usually have like a long run, two like mileage builder runs, and then we'll have something that's working, that kind of stuff each week. And then if we followed those metrics, we could know that was improving for the most part. You know what I mean? And there's like stuff you can measure. My concern is like after talking to Adam, and I say this as somebody who has a Garmin that measures this shit, my Whoop measures stuff, my ridiculous sleep number bed claims to track my HRV. Like I don't even know how it would do that. But after I talked to Adam about all of it, he was like, they're all full of shit, like for the most
Safe.
part. And he was like, they're not capturing anything. You need to be in like a vest and like all of this. And so it takes me back to like the trends, right? And just watching that kind of stuff. Because I've thought about going and doing a lot of that testing just to see where I'm at with running. And like, because I'm really bad at babying myself with running and I stay on the low end of my heart rate zones. And I don't like going to the high end like at all. So I just don't even mess around with that range. So I've thought about going to do testing to see like what I'm really capable of like there. But then it's like, but we could do it at home for the most part and like get good data. And then you don't end up with more information than you need and like rabbit holes that you dive down unnecessarily, you know?
So I think there's a couple things when I see and hear this that are differences between what you two are saying that I think some good, some not good. And so if you are looking for VO2 max testing because you are doing cardiovascular activities and you're competing and you want to be your best. Perfect. Then it might make sense. Then it might make sense for you to look at, okay, well, what's my VO2 max look like? Maybe I do some Carnothian heart rate, or heart rate reserve calculations to see like where I should be at there to be a little bit more intentional about it. But it really only matters for you in your sport and doing it that way, right? Like, sure, if you're a swimmer, can you improve VO2 max by running? Yeah, of course. But you still have to swim in competition, right? So there's not 100% carryover on everything. Um, that takes, like, I just came from jujitsu, right? You can have the best cardio in the world, but if your technique is trash, you're using way more energy than you need to for movements. And so I think in those cases, maybe it makes sense. Also, with things like ADEXA. ADEXA is pretty much, we'll call it the gold standard for body composition, right? But if you're using a BIA scale where you just have your feet on it, now there's a lot more error ratio. Like you said, anything, the Whoop bands, the rings, the watches, all this kind of stuff, none of it's going to be as accurate as higher end equipment and testing measures. And so I think what happens a lot of the time is people use lower quality testing measures and then put an emphasis on it that would insinuate that it's high quality and it really matters and that their data is absolutely accurate. And that fucks people up. Like that gets them freaked out and all the other stuff. Now, so high quality versus low quality measures, how can we actually depend on that stuff? Secondary, and this is kind of what I hinted at before, Danica, you're not worried about it for performance-based stuff. You're worried about it for health-based stuff. And so if we're looking at health-based outcomes and influencers and indicators, we're normally talking about being in a place of homeostasis, right? So we want to be in this range that is healthy. So if that is your concern, I would ask more questions like, do I get winded walking up a couple flights of stairs? Can I go out and jog with the kids or run around with them and still be okay? Can I do XYZ activities and those all not just absolutely destroy me? The answer is yes. You're probably within that range and you don't really have to necessarily spend the money on that extra testing. You can probably be pretty dang confident that you're in a good spot because VO2 max also is going to have a big determinant based on your genetics. Same with like max heart rate, which is why I hate the max heart rate thing. Like, oh, I got to be in this heart rate zone. Like, dude, my heart rate when I was in my late 20s doing VO2 max testing on a regular basis in undergrad and grad school, because we all had to do them over and over again. Like, my max heart rate was like 160, 170. I never got up to what my age predicted max heart rate was. 180, never going to happen. Like, I was going to die before that. So now, say I'm thinking I need to be at this heart rate, but realistically, my max heart rate's 20 beats per minute less than that, or 10 beats per minute less than that. But I'm trying to push into this really high zone of intensity. And I'm like, oh man, why does this suck? So I think there's this big consideration, and I'll try and stop because I know I'm taking up a lot of time and I see you guys.
No, go.
You're not.
But there's this big consideration also of, all right, cool. Well, if my resting heart rate is like 52, because like that's what my grandma's resting heart rate is. I saw plenty of people post-op for bypasses and TAVRs and all the rest of the stuff where their exercise heart rate while they were being like moderate intensity would be like an 80 because their resting heart rate was like 46. And that's just how they were. Trying to tell that person to go that crazy high, whoop, no good, no bueno. And just like if you're out of shape, then your heart rate's going to go up way faster and it's going to give you way different issues. And that's something you need to be aware of too. So I think I know everybody hates me. There's gray area there, you know? And I think that this is a normal thing for people's anxiety to kind of get to them, to think that they need more information. But for most people, you may or may not be in this position right now. I feel like that only makes that anxiety worse and gives them more things to obsess over that ends up being a net negative for them in many cases.
Yeah. I could see that too. Like
There's no way you're not healthy as shit, dude. Look at you.
No, I know I thanks. I know that I am healthy. I feel like I want to be not the healthiest, but like the most efficient, healthy version of myself
Yeah.
in like, the age that I'm at right now, in the season of life that I'm at. And And sometimes, and maybe it's just a historical thing, or as people start to realize that it's pretty easy to gather data, whether it's not really reliable or not. But I think nowadays it's really easy to see it. And and it's very, if you are in like the world of health and fitness, that is talked about a lot, like on podcast, on
Yeah.
audiobooks, like that's what's kind of talked about more. I have yet to hear like every podcast that maybe it's because of the podcast that I listen to, but most of them, when they are talking about like how to improve, how to increase your muscle, like I know how to do that, but they'll dive into like metrics and they'll dive into like data and like blood work and so it makes you kind
But
of
that's like, how much overkill is that shit?
it is.
Exactly.
I do agree. Like I think that like sometimes I look at my husband who doesn't wear a goddamn thing. Like he doesn't even know the time most days and he's not wearing any tracker, nothing whatsoever. He goes based off of how he's feeling. Like he's like my
Oh,
blood pressure is a little low right now. And I'll be like, what do you mean? And I'm like, we have a blood pressure cuff upstairs. Like we could go test it. And he'll be like, no. I feel a little loopy and I think I should probably just take one of my salt tablets. And I'm like, or he'll be like, do you have any more LMNT? Like he's just based off of that
yeah.
internal connection that he has. And somewhere along the way, and I'm sure I'm not the only one, somewhere along the way, I've absolutely have lost that. Or just am not going that route. I don't access that first. I access like what is what does this tell me? What does this thing right here tell me how I'm doing instead of being like, how am I doing?
Right. So I think that's a problem because that means that this
Well,
thing right
thank you.
here
The first
is,
part of it is admitting.
He
hold
said,
on,
well, that's a problem.
because that means this thing right here is adding stress to your life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And do you need it at that point? Is it a net positive or net negative, right? What's that question you always ask? Is this benefiting me?
Is this,
Is
yeah.
this benefiting me?
Yeah. And maybe
Wait,
it's
wait, wait, wait,
because,
wait, wait.
okay.
All right. Because what do beyond lifestyle things, what do we know is one really big indicator of things like cardiovascular disease and earlier life ending things? Fucking chronic stress, dog.
Yeah.
Chronic stress and inflammation. So if you're constantly stressing out because of this fucking thing and stressed out, cool, it doesn't matter what weight you are, you're still doing yourself a health disservice by over fixating on that thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that would be my concern with you going and getting like a detailed test like this is that then we're going to have an opportunity to have more metrics where you're going to be able to compete with yourself on them and try to manipulate that stuff, which isn't a bad thing, right? But I would say, like, if you were in a place, like Stephen said, we know you're healthy, right? Like, we know you're in a good spot. You can go jog and like go on runs and you feel good and we can push things there. And so if you were like, okay, I want to put a concerted effort into improving my VO2 max for longevity and to be able to keep this up as I get older, then I would say like, okay, well, you can go do the testing, but this is how we're going to move that needle. And then if you're like, oh, ew, I don't want to do any of that, then I'd be like, then why are we testing your VO2 max? You know? And so if you, but I know that you want to do that stuff, right? And that you're working on that. And so then it's like one of those things where you could go get it, but things like resting heart rates, like I've had my resting heart rate get down as low as 31 beats per minute. And like it normally hangs out around like right now, I've been between like 42. The last couple of days, it's been at 45. And because I'm so used to it being low, I will start to stress myself out over a 45 beat per minute resting heart rate and be like, why is it so high? What is going on? What's wrong with my sleep? And like, because I want to see it at like 38, you know? And I'm one of those people where I can watch the trend. And if it starts trending really low and then the next week all of a sudden it's high, I'm like, what's going on? And so like, then you have to realize like there's a certain point that it's just silly for us to be wasting the energy on that kind of stuff, right? Like for me, so then trying to bring it back down to where it's like, okay, so we're watching trending data. I also know that like I ovulated this week and I did my 2 long runs like more back to back than I usually would. So I probably didn't accumulate as much recovery. And I got back into lifting for the first time in like 3 weeks. I'm so sore. I can't take a step up my stairs without like wincing. And so like my body's a little stressed out, you know? So I don't, I have not, I've been tempted to go get a test like that done, more so just to do it and see. Because I'm competitive, I would work really hard in the lab environment, I think. But for me, it's not been worth the money and the time. So if you did go do it, I would be very curious on your experience with it. But I I'm curious if you end up doing it too.
Yeah,
They also suck. Fun fact. They're not
they
fun.
do.
Oh yeah, no, it doesn't look like a good time. Yeah.
It's
No.
not.
Well, I do think that I do feel that some data is good for people to have, right? And I think, I guess it's how you use it or how you let it kind of dictate your next move or how you navigate through life then after, like after you receive it, what are you going to do with it? Because I think technology is really amazing. I mean, when I was first diagnosed, I had to just prick my finger to figure out my blood sugar, right? And now I have a 24/7 like monitor that tells me every like 2 minutes it's telling me what my sugar is and what direction it's going in. And while that is good and I love it, I think that sometimes it's how you use that information maybe, or the role it plays in your life. Because I do think some people should know how they're sleeping. Like, I think that in combination, like I've had individuals, like for instance, you know this client, but I won't say her name on here. But she was just diagnosed with MS, and she started to wear like a Garmin Lily, and she made a correlation when her body gets very stressed, like her Garmin will be like, "Hey, are you stressed right now?" And then she also has a flare up prior to though. So she'll have a flare up and she'll start to get these like flares happening from MS, and then her Garmin will be like, "Are you a little stressed right now?" And
No,
it's
who would have thought? I'm not stressed at all while I'm having an MS flare up. Thanks,
right.
Garmin.
Right, but it's really her to be like, you know what? I saw that there were like little markers along the way of like, you should breathe here. Or like it just reminded her, like, hey, you should breathe here. And she didn't. She was like, I'm working and kept working through. So I do think that they're very useful. It's just how you use it and maybe the degree to which you use it. I
I'm not saying they're not useful. I'm just hating on you right now, dog.
Oh, I appreciate it too. You can call me out on all my shit.
No, no,
And
no.
maybe, I think it would be interesting to talk to people who, like, I can't necessarily go without data in my life. And maybe it would be interesting to have this conversation without that being such a significant part of my life. I wonder if I would feel the same or if I would be so data driven.
So I think your husband's a great example of life before the internet. And we are all old enough to remember life before the internet, you know? Like when somebody you thought was cute, you had a crush on, you had to like go on the phone with the long curly cable so your parents couldn't hear you flirting with them
Right.
on such. You could go outside. You know, the news happened for what? Fucking 30 minutes an hour,
Right.
Right.
once a night maybe. Now we're bombarded with everything. So now what did you worry about back then? You only worried about what was directly in front of you. Now, because of this, you're putting a million things directly in front of you to worry about. It overcomplicates the system. Whereas your husband's like, hey, I don't need to put all that stuff in front of me. I feel really good. I'm pretty happy with things. Feels all right to me. So now your client, that's different, right? There's never a time where I'd be like, oh, cool, you have diabetes and you definitely don't need something to check your
Don't
blood
look
sugar.
at it.
Yeah, you most certainly do. We're now in um a different league. We're in a different group of individuals with different considerations. Like I remember, it's funny, my dad was a type 2 diabetic, and then when he would come over, and he was an alcoholic too. So like when he would be in the morning and he'd be in like his almost diabetic coma, and you knew shit was having issues, my mom would get pissed off and just like stab him in the stomach with his insulin in the morning to wake him up. That's what you get, effer. Stop going to Bennigan's. Um, that's back when Bennigan's was around, for those of you that don't know. Um, but like, there's never a point in time where I would be like, you don't need that. But if I can do all the sports that I want to do, I can do all the activity I want to do. My blood work's coming back pretty good from the doctor. I'm not having breathing issues. I'm not having performance. Like, you know what I mean? At what point do we need all of that extra data on top of the feedback that we're already getting from our body that things are probably pretty good? Because even if we, and this is a funny, I don't know if it's funny, but this is like the interesting thing to me. Like my grandpa smoked for fucking what, 70 years, right? He started smoking when he was 13, so a little over 70 years. He died at, I think, 88. He got cancer 5 times. He beat cancer 5 times. So, surgery, modern medicine, lots of stuff helped out with that. Like he died of fucking dementia, you know? But he smoked forever, never worried about what he ate Oreo cookies almost every night for probably 30 or 40 years of his life. You know, came from Idaho. My grandma's grandma, same thing. She lived to by herself till she was 100. Never really worried about that stuff. Just knitted and, you know, ate when she wanted to eat and had potato bread all the time and all this other stuff that everybody's all freaked out about. And I'm like, man, I swear to God, some of it's just in the cards. Like you were dealt a certain hand, you can do some stuff to improve it or make it worse. Lots of people make it worse. You're not one of them. So like at a certain point, it's like, how much control do you really have over that? And then is the desire to control that situation or to influence that situation in a specific manner doing you more harm than good?
Yeah. Well, I do think it is. I've always said this to my husband, and he's like, "You're crazy," but I'm
So
crazy.
no, she didn't answer the question. She said, but I do think.
Well, I think it would be, I always tell him it would be really cool to like, and I know that there's actually like a device that kind of does this, but you walk through something and like it tells you how your inner self is working out, like how everything is and how, and then I guess with that information, because he's always like, well, say you did that. You walk through a scanner, it tells you everything. Would you make any changes? And I'm like, yeah, I probably would. Or I'd be like, see, I'm so happy that like I made that change like back in the day or whatever it may be. Or I mean, there was a period of time that I didn't give a shit about electrolytes. And like, I'm really happy I made that change. And it probably did something to my inner workings where it helped me out. So I like that information because it allows me to tweak things to improve myself. And I like knowing. And maybe that does stem from like not really knowing, like I'm super curious what my pancreas looks like and like what does it do all day? Does it just sit there and it's like, meh, I'm just here. I don't really know why I'm here. Like, what does it do? I'm very intrigued by that stuff. And it could be very like personal, like why I'm intrigued. But I do find that it's cool sometimes to have all that information. As long as you don't let it consume you, which I 100% do sometimes. And then I
There's
have to
the
check
answer.
myself.
There's the answer. But and so see here's my 2 cents, my point. I know, Christina, you're just sitting there so patiently. You're like, look at
I'm
me. I'm
good.
if you're not getting enough salt and sodium in, what's going to happen? You're going to have cramps. You're going to be lightheaded. Like you're going to be thirsty, right? Same as if you're dehydrated. There's going to be those things that come up on the exterior that you're going to see. So for a lot of those things, and yeah, like don't get me wrong, I still get my PSA checked when I go to the doctor. But like, you know, that's one of those that you probably want to catch early because you don't want to let things grow and progress. But for a lot of like, I would say these simple health things, you're like, oh man, my hair's really falling out a lot. That's not healthy. Well, that's a sign that something's wrong. Maybe you need to look into it, right? Oh, I wake up tired every morning. That might not be a good thing. Oh yeah, my wife says I'm snoring really loud. Maybe I need to go do a sleep test. But like I feel like so often there's an external biofeedback or maybe internal biofeedback that lets you know like when stuff's wrong. And so
Mm.
for me, I'm like, okay, well, can I? And it's not always easy to notice. Sure, sometimes you're a little behind the bill, whatever stuff happens. But normally you're gonna be like, oh man, like I'm performing like shit. Like what's going on? This workout sucks. Oh God, you know what? My calorie intake's been crazy low. I forgot to eat all day. No wonder I feel like butt. You know, um, just like, oh man, my bicep tendon's hurting. Oh, I'm probably pushing it too hard in the gym. I'm probably not recovering well. Like, and so a simple or straightforward answer, no. But I feel like if you're feeling really good overall physically, and as soon as you get to that point, and this may be you, this may not be you. This is a lot of people I've worked with and some that I still work with. Like you're like, oh, I feel really good physically. Now I got to figure out what's wrong with me. Why the fuck does something have to be wrong all the time? It doesn't. Maybe you're just doing really good and you can just feel fucking good for a bit.
Or it's
Yeah.
like looking for that thing to fix, right? Because all of the other things, you're like, good, and you need something. And so that's where I would just throw the Danica like question back at you, where it's like, okay, and so when that happens, what are you going to do with it? You know, like
By the way, we love Danica. This episode.
we're
So
learning.
let us not forget that.
This is
Because this
no, I she's like, I have a plan. And I mean, yeah, like I expected if I come with some crazy thing I'm doing, I'll probably catch some shit. And so I'm excited for this. If you go do it, like then I'm just gonna bug you for us because then we'll have to do it a second time, right? That's what I would say. If you're gonna do it once, make your like do it twice, pay for two,
Yeah.
and then let's see what the second one looks like. Because going and doing it once is just enough information to torture yourself with. But
Yeah. I think
committing,
there are things that are cool sometimes to test. Like for instance, like a dead hang. Like how long could you hang for? I think that
yeah,
that's pretty cool to be able to test because it's something that you could improve on, whether you want to or not. Like you can dive into the reasons why. But I think some things are cool to test as long as like you don't get hyper fixated on like, oh my God, it was only like 47 seconds. So like I have to work on it every single day. Like it doesn't consume you.
yeah.
And I have been at that place. Like I know what that feels like. So if there are any, I know I'm not alone here. I know there are other people that have this. So I have been in that place where like I would even like be in a meeting with you guys and I'd be like, why is my heart rate is 77? It shouldn't be 77. Why is it 77? Like, but having a full-blown conversation with you guys
and
while
the reason
I'm
it's 77.
like it is, but I know what that feels like to be in that headspace where it's all consuming of like of health, like waking up in the morning and you can't wait to sleep. You see like the sleep score and like as if that's going to tell you how you feel. Like my husband wakes up and he's like, glorious. And I'm like, you don't even know your sleep score though. And he's like, yeah, if I feel good,
You
like
don't even
that's
know.
my sleep score.
I'm the same way. And so with the Garmin, like one of the things with its little like notifications and stuff, it'll tell me when I go for an outside run, it gives me like my score for the day or whatever. And it usually is somewhere between, it's on like a scale of like -4 to +4. And you can fall like a 0 would be like you're totally normal. And it waits until I'm like 5 or 6 minutes like into the activity. On days where it tells me that I am a 0 to 4, wonderful. I get that news while I'm running and I'm like, I do feel good. Thank you, Garmin. I started my long run yesterday. I had to be out there, like I was planning to be out there for 14 fucking miles. And I start my run, and half a mile into it, it says -3, shit condition. And I'm like, thank you, Garmin, because I won't be thinking about that for the next 13 and a half miles that like, am I uncomfortable? Is this harder than it should be? What's going and but I was fine. And so one of the things that I'll have like some of my clients do if they want to work on this stuff and they're getting frustrated with their paces not moving or they're getting frustrated that their heart rate isn't coming down. Because I have a lot of clients who will go for an easy paced run and then we'll check their heart rate after and it's like 172. And that's just their like easy cardio heart rate. And so then I'm like, all right, we just don't need to look at the information right now then. And I want you to just go out and if you feel good and you can sustain it comfortably and you can like sing along to a line in a song, then just keep that up for 20 minutes. And let's just do that consistently. And let's stop tracking it. And I'll do that for myself sometimes where I'll just like change the screens or have it like not notify me of anything. So I can just go out and see like what if I did just do it for fun? Like what if I just did it to feel good? And those can be some of like the nicest sessions with stuff. So like I'm a huge proponent of having all of the data. I have so much fucking information about random bullshit. Like nobody needs that much. And it can be fun. I am definitely have been reformed into not letting it completely ruin my life as much because it used to be like, well, my day's going to be shit because my recovery was red. And so fuck this. And like, I'm, done before the sun's come up because my numbers were wrong or something. And you have to like, I like to remind myself, like I get comfort from the fact that Adam told me that for the most of the part, like it's nothing. And like, we're just looking at trends and don't take it too seriously with like small shifts and stuff like that, because like, they're not actually, I mean, they're smart, but they're not that smart. And so like, don't let it ruin your day.
So
Yeah.
I think about it like when Ricky Bobby was in the hospital in Talladega Nights and he was talking shit to his buddy. And then he's like, don't you put that evil on me, Ricky Bobby. Don't you
Right.
put that evil on me.
Yeah.
And then he stabs himself in the leg.
That's my
He's
garment.
like, no, I'm paralyzed. And he stabs himself in the leg and starts freaking out. He's like, I'm not paralyzed. Because here's the fun fact about all these little things. I threw my other one. So all these little things, they're based off population averages, right? I threw it again. Now I threw my phone. So you are not a population average. Maybe some people are cool. And there's lots of cool science that goes into them, but it's imperfect, right? And it's not just you. So yes, you have to look at it for trends. And then the other thing is, it's like, what happens if your VO2 max comes back super low? And you're like, oh, fuck. Oh, fuck. I got to fix this. I got to fix this. I got to fix this. You could do the stuff to make it better regardless. But like, now did that just ruin your day? Like, when I wake up, if I look at my sleep score and I feel it, am I looking at my sleep score to determine if I feel good or if I feel rested today? Or am I waking up and saying, oh, I feel good. Oh, I don't feel good. And then looking at my sleep score to see if there's something there that it's going to give me for data to impact. I don't know why the fuck I just put on those glasses.
No,
But
I
like,
agree with
because
that.
that's the question, right? Are you feeling how you feel and then using that to influence that? Or are you looking at that and being dependent on that to tell you how you feel? Because those can be two different things.
Totally. There's a guy, a leader on the SWAT team. Matt's on the SWAT team, but they were doing a mission and he wears like the best Garmin watch or whatever. It tells you your battery life, like your life battery. And they were like,
I would be so mad if I wore that and it wasn't really low.
so they suited up, ready to go, like ready to get shit done. And he was like, dude, 0% battery life. Let's do this. Which means like he was on like just empty cylinders. Like
I thought that meant he was about to get shot.
No, but and then
Because what if you go in at 100% battery life and then you get shot and you're like, ah, fuck, miscalled that one, Garmin.
Like,
imagine
low
though,
pressure indicated.
imagine if he though took that and was like, I can't, guys. I can't. Like if he just let the Garmin dictate whether the mission would be completed or not. Yeah, you have to be able to kind of assess your body a little bit more. But I do feel at the same time, there are just some things that like, for instance, I don't know about my small blood vessels and if there's any damage being done to them. Like I can't look into my eyes and or like wear something. I can't even do that. So like I have to have like an ophthalmologist to be able to tell me like how are those nerves doing and how's like the little blood vessels and some things you do have to like have the data to know that you're doing okay. And then other things, maybe you just lean into your intuition a little bit more or trust it a little bit more.
So here's my other thing that I was thinking about that I forgot that now you reminded me of. Sweet ADHD, thank you. Boop boop boop. Is also like, at what point are you putting too much time into all of the data? And
Mm.
not saying you, but for me or Christina or fucking anybody that exists ever that hears this, at what point are you putting so much time and effort into trying to track and manipulate your data that it's now, again, a net negative for you, right? Like it's taking away from your ability to have time to calm down and read at the end of the day, or to enjoy time with your kids because, you're worried about X, Y, and Z, or you're forcing your kids to do something they don't want to do because you're like, I got to be active and get some extra steps in. That's it. We're going and playing ball. And they're like, we hate ball. And I'm like, I don't care. Ball is life. Get with it, Like at or at what point am I ignoring my kids because I'm too busy tracking my data and stuff? And obviously this isn't you. I know that, you make a very big point to try and be a good and like intentional mother and parent and be involved. But like, at what point for other people, again, does it start being a net negative for you? Because if I'm paying attention to all the fucking data that I can, I am definitely not paying attention to a lot of other things in my life.
But you know what I feel like is a bigger issue there, as opposed to like somebody being so consumed with their steps that they're not parenting, right? Like I don't worry about that as much. I think
I'm
the big
definitely that person. I'm not parenting at all.
he's like, get away from me while he's on this little step mill in his room. No,
But it's just my dogs, though. I don't have any kids.
I would say, well, see, that would be perfect. Your step like obsession would just benefit them. Um, like I think most people could benefit probably, right, from like wanting to do more of that stuff or getting their family involved. I think the bigger concern that I see is people having a million different metrics that they can choose to track and obsess over. And so they will choose one, let's say steps. They'll run with that for about a week or two. They're going to do all the fucking steps. They're doing 20,000 steps a day. Steps are life until they run out of time. They've got other shit to do. Their feet hurt and the weather's bad. And then now the step thing's ruined. And so, okay, steps aren't for me. You know what it is? It's my sleep score. So, and then now they move on to the next thing, and then they're obsessed about that, and then they're moving from one thing to the other. At the same time, we've got the weighted vest, and we've got the special pillow, and we've got the sleep monitor, and we've got like all these different things, and we're pouring ourselves into these like different little things, and we're not spending enough time on any one thing to actually make fucking progress.
By the way, can we just fucking stop with the weighted vests?
I
Can we
like my
just
weighted
fucking
vest
stop?
though.
No, no, no. Every single client that I have had is like, cool, I got a weighted vest. They start using it for fucking everything. And a week later, like, ow, I'm hurt.
Yes, you can't do it for that's like the
Like,
disclaimer, right? I've been telling my clients if they get one, at most we do like half of our cardio and we change their cardio intensity because you can fuck your knees up with that.
but
I
your feet, your ankles, like you can
Yeah,
get overuse from everything
your
because, oh
joints,
no, I'm
all of that
adding an
stuff.
extra 30 pounds and I'm just rucking all the time and you're
Yeah.
not used to it. And now you're like, oh, my feet, I can't walk now. Like, fucking come. Like, no, please stop.
Again, it's
Like,
like the
I would just
dose,
rather get
right?
rid of them.
The
Yeah.
dose is the poison, and like paying attention with that stuff. So again, you don't want to go from like 0 to 60. I got myself a 20-pound vest because Claire weighs like 32 to 34 or whatever. And so I'm carrying around a toddler all the time. So I figured 20 pounds, not on just one hip, I'd be fine. But like think about that. Like what are you used to before you go get something? But yeah, that would be my bigger concern with all of this kind of stuff. Like when people go and do these tests. So I've had clients who were not interested at all in like cardio performance or like not even necessarily the longevity side of things. They were truly only concerned about fat loss and like really finding out numbers. How much do like, what do I really have to do is what they'll go do it for, right? And they'll go do things like get their BMR and their RMR and like all this. And they'll come to me and they're like, I have the answers. Here is the manual and here is the book, and this is how my fat loss works. And then we'll plug in the exact numbers that their fancy little sheet says, and then their weight goes up. And they're like, what? And like, go Stephen, go ahead.
My favorite is like when they're like, oh yeah, my BMR is at 1,800 calories, and they're already doing like 5 hours of cardio a week and eating 1,600 calories, and you're like, fucking is it now?
Right.
Is it now, mate?
Right, right. And they're like, but I did the test, but the test said, and I'm like, fuck the test. I'm sorry. Like, and so my answer almost always, don't do it. Don't like, what is it going to change? Unless it is now, if it was something like, we need to find out if you have MS, do a test. Like we
Right.
need answers for that. And think, those
Or
kinds of
sleep
things.
apnea.
Yeah.
Oh shit, like, do I have sleep? I just had a client that moved in with his girlfriend, and I'm like, he's a big fucking dude. I'm like, come on, guy.
Like,
It
you
wouldn't
probably
even
have it.
surprise me a little bit if you have sleep apnea. And soon, sure enough, like 2 weeks in, the new girlfriend's like, you need to go take a fucking sleep test. And I'm like, oh, look, you have sleep apnea. I'm like, all right, well, I'm not surprised at all.
Does he
But like,
want to stay as big as he is? Or is he like,
he's a men's physique competitor, so yeah,
oh
he's
yeah.
trying.
Okay.
He's like
Mhm.
trying to, be up there and do that stuff. So it's
Vic
like,
got like sleep apnea. He was like that when he was going at his like biggest. If he was hanging out like 280 plus, he snored like crazy and had sleep apnea. Now he hangs out closer to like 255 and it's gone away. And it's not like a thing anymore.
yeah, I mean, he's 240 and pretty ripped.
Yeah.
So,
It's just like
um,
the weight literally of like the muscles of like
Yeah.
your chest and your throat and everything. Like it's not like a fatness thing like necessary. It's just heaviness.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So like health stuff, like that, hell yeah. And Danica, at the end of the day, I'm like, you do what you want to do. You do what you want to do. But I'm always going to challenge you and be a pain in the ass about whether or not that's truly going to benefit you, because
Yeah.
that unfortunately is who I am as a person.
I think it's important because there was like a period of my life where like I saw a cardiologist, I had like a MRI, I had a CT scan, I had like all these things done, and it turned out that it was literally just anxiety. And
Yeah.
and I was having panic attacks, and like so I didn't need. I will say though, at the same time, it helped me to rule out big ticket items, and that felt good. And then to be able to say, I need to self-check this, like what's really kind of amping this up, and can I just use my own knowledge and be able to say, hey, maybe you just need to take some deep breaths and like not get so wrapped up in this. And sure enough, that's what it was. And then it turned out to be fine. Like now I'm totally okay. So, but I do think though, I don't want to like poo-poo all the data. There are some really cool things. Like, do you guys think that there's anything that you kind of really like about the technology that's out there and the measurements that are provided
I mean,
that you find to be useful?
so any of it can be useful. I don't think, we're saying that it's not, but we're saying, okay, well, who is that data useful to? Because if you're
Yeah.
worried about your cardiovascular health, then like maybe a simple thing like, okay, well, what's my max heart rate? Where am I sitting at? What's my resting heart rate? Maybe some of those are good. I'm obviously challenging you to be more like Matt before you go into it and then see if you still care.
There's just no way. I just have to say, there's
There's no
just
fucking way I'm
no,
gonna be more like Matt.
there's no way. He's like definitely pushed me, and I appreciate like even his idea around death. And he's like, Yeah, I don't know when that's going to happen, Danica, nor do I care because I'm just living life like day to day and I'm making the best of it. And I'm like,
It
what do you mean you don't care? Like, he's like, listen, I get my workouts in, I eat really well, I love my family hard, I love what I do at work, I get after it. Like, he checks off all of his
He's not going to
non-negotiables, and
change his
that's
shit.
all that matters. Like, he
Yeah.
doesn't. Yeah, he's like, and I think it all is perception too. Like, if people are listening and they're like, oh, well, I'm more like Matt, or I'm more like Christina, I'm more like Stephen, like, I'm more like Danica, where I can get
Please don't be more
hyper-fixated
like
on
me.
things. Like, I think it's all your life, like what your perception is and what your experience is too. Because Matt and I have very different experience with like our health. And mine is like a daily thing. He has like come into contact with death so many times. And so he's like, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
like it's going to happen. And then he'll be like,
Yeah.
that's why I always say make the best of every day, Danica. And I'm like, oh God, like,
That's
listen,
So,
so
listen.
this it's funny because this is my marriage too. And Matt is me and
yeah.
Jillian is Steve.
Oh,
And there'll be a bunch of times where I'm leaving the house, I'll be like, well, baby, just in case I die in traffic, I love you so much. And she's just like, why do you do that? And I was like, because I could die in traffic. I don't fucking know. Somebody could just smash me right to death. And she's like, why? Why? And I was like, because that's real life.
Don't put that in the universe. I
that's
say that
right.
all the
Vic,
time.
he always puts out like that he is gonna die at 75 because looking at like his grandparents and like things like that, he's like, that's what I've got. Like that's his expiration date, is the way he looks at it. And the women in my family have lived much longer. Like I have a woman who lived until 107. My great grandmother lived on her own until 97. And then literally she found out she had cancer, like head to toe, and she was gone like immediately after. Like life was great. And then at 97, it was like the body's tired, and then she was donezo.
Yeah.
I can do that, right? 75, I'm like, ew, I just turned 38. That puts me solidly midlife, and like I want the like earlier edge of it.
Yeah.
I give you shit about this test because you and I are the same way about this kind of stuff, and I would want you to give me shit about this test and
Yeah.
be like, Christina, why the fuck do you need that? And
Why do you need
so
that?
that's my reasoning, right? That I would be like, no, because I've traveled down that road with you. And like I said, I'm a huge hypocrite while I have two watches and a bed that measures all this crap. I also own a heart rate chest monitor. Super uncomfortable. Cost me $100 from Garmin. I hate it. I don't ever wear it.
I mean,
Like
that's the accurate one.
and yeah, that's it's the only one you should actually trust. And I fucking hate wearing it because the best place for it to go is right where our bra strap would go. And then I feel like my rib cage can't expand properly with each breath. So then I feel like I'm not breathing right, which makes my heart rate go up. And then that's all I think about the entire time that I'm wearing the strap. And then it ruins my run. So now I don't wear the
Mm.
heart rate strap because
Why the fuck do you want to live past 75 though, by the way? Like, I don't want to fucking live past
no,
75.
I
Like,
plan on being like running a marathon when I'm 75. Like that's the thing. I don't plan on being old. I'll be like chronologically old, but I will be as capable as possible.
yeah, that's my thing. Like, I don't give a like if I die at 75, cool. Like, if I die at 85, cool. Like, my grandma still mows the fucking lawn. She's 88. You know, she hops on the John Deere thing in the right motion. She's like, um,
Vic's grandmother just did, so she was 93, 94. She passed away a couple of weeks ago. And she had done what do they call it? Is it assisted suicide still? I think it is in
they
California.
have that, just not in the States.
No,
Like, you
yes,
can
they
do it in
do.
the
She
UK.
did it in California and San Diego. Her
Really?
Oh,
doctor
California has
prescribed,
assisted suicide?
and you can do it. I know you can do it in Washington State.
Oh.
But it was like a similar situation where she lived in a nice, very nice place down in La Jolla, where it was like senior citizen community and it had like the different levels. And so she was in her 90s. She had fallen. She was doing water aerobics, walking on the beach every day, meeting her girlfriends for cocktail hour. Like she had like a life. And then she fell leaving the pool. It was like the third fall or something, but it was like the one that really got her.
But she broke her hip,
And
didn't she?
She didn't break her hip. No, but I know the statistics on that. If you break your hip,
Yeah.
Yeah.
you're fucked.
Yeah.
No, she hit her head, and which not much better. So from there, it started the things like she wasn't eating as much anymore. She wasn't going to her classes and not moving as much. And so then with the most recent fall, they were like, okay, well, you're going to have to move into where you have somebody like hanging out all the
An
time.
assisted living facility.
So they were going to take her in the same building, but like graduate her to the different level of care. And she wasn't going to have her own refrigerator anymore. So she wouldn't have white wine. And she wouldn't have her choices. Like she wouldn't have that agency. And so when they ran through everything and they were putting her on hospice care and they weren't going to treat new things anymore, they were just managing pain. She was just like, I'm out. Like,
Mhm.
Well,
I
that's what my
don't,
great grandma did too. Like she
yeah.
lived on her own till after 100, and then around 101, they put her in ALF, and she was in there for like 6 months, and then she was like, "Yo, yeah, fuck this," and she took her oxygen out and was just like, "I'm out."
I
Really?
think they just gave it to her as like a pill. What she like, we had the memorial this last weekend, so everyone told the stories that like were there with her, and she was able to. So she came straight from Norway, right? So when we heard her plans with it, we were like, how fucking Viking to like go out this way and
Yeah.
like make this choice for yourself. That like she got to be strong with it, and in the moment, I guess that day, like the family was sad and they were crying and with her, and then there was one point where they were all looking at a family album and they started telling stories and they started laughing. And that was when she looked over to her person and was like, now, please. And then she was gone. And I was like, ah,
Hmm.
like, I mean, what a great way to go about it. Where it was like, okay, her body was about to start failing. She had done many, 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 many decades, like more than most people get to do. And then be able to go out with some agency and like feeling as strong as possible, like in that situation and not just breaking down. Right. And
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
I can't control everything. Like, luckily, I don't come from a family that has a lot of like cancers and stuff going on where that's a big concern. My grandmother died of complications of Parkinson's. And that's like, I don't want to go crazy. And so, like, with that
I
stuff,
would rather, I would rather die of cancer.
yeah, I don't
Mm,
like Alzheimer's or something like that
dementia.
would be a giant, like basically
Anything where
her.
you start forgetting who you are, I'm like that's where I've seen it from the outside. And it's like I don't think if
Yeah.
being on the inside, I would want to keep going for that.
She had the Lewy body dementia that comes along with Parkinson's. And so, like,
Mm,
never any fun. But like, now they have the tests, right, that we can go do. And
right.
you can see if you're like predisposed and all of that. But the thing is, and I've thought about it, like, but I don't know what I would do with that information that's much different, because I feel like with a lot of stuff, if I learn it's going to protect my brain, then I do that. If I try to do all of that kind of stuff. So then I know for me, who literally can find the fact that the tip of my nail is white and not pink will bother me. Like I can get obsessive over anything. I feel like that's just not information I necessarily need because then like if I forget something, I'm gonna be like, did I forget to take the cupcakes
Yeah.
because I just have a lot on my plate? Or is it because it's starting and like the Alzheimer's is here, and then I start freaking out.
Yeah.
Or because you just have ADHD.
Oh, 100% that's why. So I shared that thing about
No,
it
no,
freaking.
it's 2:15, dude. We can't keep going. We gotta start wrapping it up, dog.
We're at
Quit
the one
making me
hour
be the
mark.
wrap
We
it
did a
up
good
box
job
guy.
today. We did a good job today.
You did do a good job
We
today.
did.
We
I love
did.
so I do want to talk next week. I'll put this out to you guys and then they can say in the comments. Have you seen where people are doing like the de-influencing where it's like I got this stuff and it's like not worth it. And so that like people
Oh, fuck, I love that. I did not know that was a thing, but fuck yes, I'm about it.
let's
Like,
do
don't
it.
ever fucking listen to anything that I say.
Okay.
Stop listening to the podcast. You don't need any of us.
Okay, so don't listen to Steven. Don't let him influence you. I'll de-influence you when it comes to Steven. But actually, if you guys have questions about like specific, okay, like weighted vests, he would say, don't go get one. I've told a couple clients, I've sent them a link like this week where I'm like, hey, this is the one I have. So I figured if we talked about different stuff like that, as people, do the spring ramp up into things. So if listeners have any products or any questions that you have, let us know and we can talk about it. That's
This
it.
is how I get us sued.
Oh, because you're
No.
gonna talk some shit. I'm
I
very
like that
curious what
one.
you could talk shit about. Oh, so I don't know if it's out yet. Maybe you guys know this better than I do, but I feel like I got an email about Core having flavored creatine now.
That is a thing, yes.
Is it
Paul said it tastes
out
good.
or is
Yeah.
it teased? Okay. Um, because I have unflavored creatine because I just add it to my liquid IV normally, but I was talking to a client about how they're having trouble remembering it on days they don't have a protein shake or days that they don't like do cardio. And that's when I was like, well, because for me, I'm not going to add it to plain water, even though it's unflavored and it's supposed to dissolve. That would weird me out. I need to know it's being covered. And so, shout out to Core. You could use Castle if you want. I think we all have last names that work there. So
Mine is
rotate through like,
Bro Grand.
oh, it
Bro.
is instead of Bow Grand. I
Yeah.
think for the challenge, it's like transform.
Use
Um,
ours instead, anyways.
Hook us up.
Wait,
Uh,
nobody tell Doug I said that.
I think that's it. We don't have anything else special going on, right? The season's gonna ramp up a whole lot. I got a client competing soon. I got clients running marathons this month. I'm excited.
Yeah, Danica, you'll have to let us know if you do it or not.
I will.
I feel like
Yeah.
now you have to go do it.
I know. It's anywhere between like $100 to $300.
Well, don't do it where it's 300. Do it for 100.
Yeah.
Is it cheaper if you do it and then don't have them read it to you, and then we'll just send it to Steven and be like, Steven, interpret
Read
the
it all.
number."
Yeah.
Yeah, that's been a long fucking time since I've done that.
Yeah, but we have so many people like that we could be like,
It
guys,
gives you
everybody
the
read
like
it.
it's like blood work. It gives you the readout. It tells you exactly.
Yeah.
Like, you know, like it's a big thing that you're looking at for max is when your RER is like 1 or higher.
I mean, it was fun.
I think
I
that's right.
actually really enjoy this stuff. When I did a stress test, I was like, let's fucking do it. Like, she was like, okay, are you good? I was like, yeah, I'm good. Like, what else do I need to do? And she was like, it's gonna feel really weird. Like, we're gonna do the last round and your heart rate's gonna get really high. And I was like, push it, girl. And then she was like, and then I'm gonna have you lay down immediately. And it felt so weird, but I felt so good at the same time because I was like, I'm feeling my insides. Like, this is it's really messed up. But I like that stuff because I'm like, yes, like my heart is working and I know my recovery rate and I know like how I can push and like I don't know. I think those things are very interesting to me. Like it just, yeah, it's cool.
Don't ask you about your relationship with your mom.
Oh man. All
Christina,
right.
you have the control of the button,
I know.
not on me.